Words. All right, let me make sure I'm going in the right direction. Here we go. My whole presentation, I know it's entitled Black Dreams Matter, Understanding the Black Sci-Fi Movement. But really what I want you to get to do is to understand my shirt. So if you don't understand it for this time, it's actually all Greek to me too. I'll explain it by the end of my presentation. Why Black Dreams Matter? Break it down very simply. Because sci-fi matters. Sci-fi is very important. Because dreams of black people matter to the world. And then also, dreams matter to black people. Now, I'm talking as a black person, but it's also men, it's also women, it's also children, gender variations, and other cultures. So as I go through the Black Dreams Matter, transpose that on the different variations of everything that I just mentioned. But we're going to start in reverse order. In the Bible, and I'll get biblical with you real quick, it says, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And I put this black psychiatrist up there because Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was a very influential person to me. She allowed me to see into a lot of black people racism in different expressions. And she also talked about how it manifests itself in everyday things. One of the things she always taught about was the game of pool. And just using that as an analogy of how the world can be seen. And you might have seen it in different movies and stand-up comedy jokes. But it just got us to think. You know, it started us to use our imagination. So as we talk about this great nation of the United States, one of my writers of influence, Mr. Rodney Barnes, he wrote a series, The Falcon, if you're familiar with the Marvel superheroes. They just did a Falcon run last year. Rodney Barnes was a writer for that. He also wrote Runaways. He also wrote episodes with Boondocks. And he said the largest nation is the imagination.
All right.
And so when I talk about the importance of Black Dreams Matter, understand that it fits into this large nation called the imagination, because we're talking about the dreams of black people. Why do black dreams matter to black people? Well, black people need to see themselves in the future. They need to understand that they have a role in the future. They need to understand what that role would be and speculate about it. When we talk about fiction, and I'm on my 13th sci-fi book, 2 chapters to go. I was writing today before I came here. Thank you. But really, none of any of those books has ever happened, right? It's all lies. I'm a liar. I'm just real good at it. 76,000 words good at it, right? Very interesting, award-winning filmmaker good at it, right? And so I speculate about the future. I speculate about me being in it. Not that I'm going to diss Star Wars and say I want to be a space janitor like Finn, or I want to be a space secretary like Uhura, Chief of Communications, in Star Trek. But I want to have my own ship. I want to have my own planet. I want to have my own universe, a diverse universe, right? That's my future. That's my dreams. And I'm sure all of you have yourselves in your own future. And think about how messed up today would be if you didn't think you would be here tomorrow, year after next, millennium after millennium. Wow. So it's an understanding their role in the past. So when we talk about sci-fi, you also think of Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and things set in medieval times. Well, every culture had a medieval time. Every culture has had a past. Google the mound builders, right? We're just dealing with the reality of what America represented to the Native Americans. So Google mound builders while you're at it. Maybe you all get a presentation on mound builders of America, okay? And then it also allows us to decide what we're going to do in the present. How many of y'all thought about coming here maybe last week? How many of y'all regular Nerd Night attendees saw the list and said, oh, I'm going to come here on June 6th, right? So you had a plan in the past to do something today. How many of y'all know what you're going to do this weekend? How many of y'all know what you're going to do for the summer? Anybody saving up for their retirement? Okay, so we understand how important the past, present, and the future is. So think about that in terms of speculating your wildest dreams. Work towards those. My son just started early enrollment Monday. He's in 11th grade, now he's in college, very next day. But we planned for that. It didn't happen by accident. He didn't wake up 16 and say, you know what, I'm all A's. I got a 4.3 grade point average. Guess what, Dad, I'm going to college. No, it started in kindergarten. We chose his elementary school. We chose his middle school. We chose his high school. We're still choosing his college, so I want him to finish this early enrollment, get this extra 4 point something GPA, and then put him out to the best tech bidder, so maybe we can talk, right? All right, so anyway, Black dreams matter to the world. And I always say, Black dreams matter, but I ain't a racist or reverse racist, so let's include the Asian culture. I just saw this movie, The Wandering Earth. Shout out to the Asian people. I've been to China, I've been to Japan, okay? I got stamps on my passport. Take that, George Bush, okay? So, The Wandering Earth, this is a good example, right? We always talk about a comet coming to hit Earth, and in Western media, what do they say in their stories? Oh shoot, we what? We better eliminate the threat. Go Armageddon, get a big gun and shoot it out the sky. But the Asian culture thinks differently. You know what they decided to do? And spoiler alert, I'm really not going to spoil it because it's in the description and it's in the title. But they decided to trick out the planet and not make it a big Death Star, but make engines and move the Earth out the way. Anybody ever take martial arts? If you learn judo, if you learn many different martial arts forms, they don't say pull out a gun and shoot the person, deflect it, use their energy. That's what they did. So when we talk about multicultural sci-fi, we're talking about multicultural perspectives. If a comet is coming to Earth, do you think it's only going to be one country and one culture that's worried about it? No! So we're all going to have different strategies that we all have to come together. And why not do that now in our what? Imagination, right? Because we have this great nation of our minds. In the future, we can be unified, right? So that's one of the things. And in this other book, Zorro, you're probably not going to find it because it's out of print. It's about $3,000 for the copy. But it's my favorite sci-fi book because it deals with black aliens, right? And they're not coming to blow up the world. They're coming to trace their ancestry. So this isn't, Independence Day with Will Smith. Now, my great mentor, big influencer, Stephen Barnes, he says sci-fi answers 3 important questions. What if this happens? And if only that would have happened? And if this goes on? So what if this happens? What if aliens come, right? If only this would have happened. What if Columbus didn't come to America and they shot and killed him in the sea and they continued to believe the earth was flat for millenniums, all right? Or what if this goes on? Global warming, South Florida floods. That's sci-fi. What is sci-fi? Sci-fi is nothing but a scientific experiment's question. Before you start doing any type of chemistry, any type of physical thing, you all start with a question. So sci-fi is that question. Any engineers in here? Yes, engineers play out all of these scenarios. So before you decide to do anything, you have to speculate about it. So that's why sci-fi is important. Oh, and side note, this is my post-apocalyptic series that I'm in the process of writing, 2 chapters away from finishing the 3rd book in the series. So this is a multicultural sci-fi story like Mad Max and Walking Dead. All right? It's available on Amazon, so a little commercial for myself. But the importance of black sci-fi, real quick, you know, even the colors of characters matter. If you remember the Hunger Games, they were reading a black character, but many people didn't know it was black because they identified with the energy of the person. They identified with the dilemma that the character was placed in. But yet, they could not identify with the character when it came to the big screen. Their racism, their cultural dissidence could not allow them to care for the same little rude character that came from a black district in Hunger Games when she came to the big screen. So then you had a group of female writers that said, women matter, and we're going to get tired of reading white male writers in sci-fi. So they stopped reading white male writers for a year, and gender became important. Color and race became important, and culture became important. And so that took place, and it spilled over from literature to comic books, to video games, to board games, tabletop games, and of course to film. So who are some of these key players? And I'm coming to my end, so if you have questions, hopefully I'll have time for at least one or two questions. But who are some of these black key players, right? Of course, you know of Octavia Butler, and I had a big slide on her, but I shortened my presentation and I removed her, but we know she's our queen mother of black sci-fi. But you also have Charles Saunders, who did this book, The Morrow. It's a black Game of Thrones. It's set in Africa, written by African American. Then you have Samuel Delaney. You have South Florida's very own Tiana Reeve-Dew. And some of the newcomers, they're more than what I have up there because this presentation was envisioned before Black Panther. And now we're in the post-Black Panther era, right? We even saw Luke Cage. Some of us seen Black Lightning, all right? How about that? So we have N.K. Jemisin. We have David Anthony Durham. We also have Tomei, who has a book out now, Children of Blood and Bone. And we also have Indy Okafor, her Binti series, set in outer space. These are my books. I have my little thing up here. But one of the things I like to point out, give you an example, sci-fi also includes horror. And many of you all are scared to read the title of one of my books out loud. But I'll read it for you. It happened on Negro Mountain. Yes, that is a real place. I passed it when I was road managing in Western Maryland. And it's a place entitled Negro Mountain because the slaves escaped and did like a 40 acres and a mule, and they defended their place, and this is real, and they said, oh, don't walk in that mountain, it's Negroes up in that mountain. And so they lost their main leader, and he got killed, and they dedicated the mountain to him, to them, and they call it Negro Mountain. There's a plaque for it up there. But this is how black sci-fi and black horror comes in. Well, my story is that his ghost still protects that mountain. So if you go up there with any ratchetness, you cheat on your wife, you beat your wife, you beat your kids, that's when you'll have your Amityville horror, right? Because the ghost will get the bad people, not a bad ghost terrorizing good people. So that's different because when I get into my African culture, which is very much like other people's culture, I don't have an H.P. Lovecraft fear and demon of the dead. In my black and African culture, the dead is my grandmother. The dead is my uncle. So if you go up south, right, to South Carolina or to west south, right? He said that in Spanish, so sí, señor. Because you can curse in Spanish. You know? They don't have an algorithm for that, right? So when we go into our culture, these are our guardians. They protect us. When you saw it in Black Panther, they went into the ancestral realm. So you can count the good ghost stories on one hand, Casper and the ghost, and that's it. Because in Western media, Western literature, H.P. Lovecraft is so revered that he's the model for the trophy that they give out. But in his parameters, ghosts are bad. You say ghosts, people run. You say dead, people think evil. But African culture doesn't see it that way. Many Asian cultures see it going either way. You got good goats, you got bad goats. And we need to have that in our speculation. I'm just moving real quick. So Black Sci-Fi has a radio show. We have comic book conventions. We have my big convention, which is coming up next Saturday on South Beach. And all of you all are invited, especially y'all nerd people. It's a book event because as a writer, I want my stories to graduate into the big screen. And they have a big film festival coming to South Beach with Spike Lee, Tyler Perry, and all those people. So I invited 35 of my other writer friends to come through. Because why? Because I love sci-fi. Thank you very much. And I hope you can. Flyers with me, so if you want a flyer and you want to remember it, tickets are only $10 and a little bit less on Eventbrite. Yeah. She said I have time for questions, so if anybody, big-brained nerd wants to stump me, ask me a question, feel free. This is a chance to ask questions. Okay, right here in the jeans. Yes, please. What advice do I have for aspiring Afrofuturists? Well, I didn't even mention Afrofuturism. I had a little definition up there, but I didn't mention it. Afrofuturism is just black dreams in the future. Well, I would say, first, don't read H.P. Lovecraft. Stop reading, back away from it. Not that he's not a good writer, but if you speak English, that means you have a very heavily influence in Western culture. And you kind of have to purge yourself of that to get back into your original ideas. And then second, join a black society of science fiction writers. Just get around your own culture and start talking to them, because we need to build our minds up and we need to think of things together, and sometimes that happens. And then third, any good writer can help you write. And writing is a craft. It's not something you take a class and that's the end of it. You're always going to learn how to write. So I think Julia's here. There's other people that are writers. There are writer groups. Get with a group of writers and learn the craft of writing. But those are my 3 things for you. Thank you very much.
We do quick rounds of trivia in between presentations. Actually, I have your attention we love that you guys come here and meet cool people and have interesting conversations. If you do have a conversation that you really want to continue, we ask that you just move to a different spot so that the nerds in the audience can hear the speakers. And